Jataya Tutravetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Vitamritaduhe Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita Bhakti Shastri course. We are in the 18th chapter. We are discussing how Karma Yoga gradually elevates through Jnana Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. And within the arrangement of Karma Yoga, we are discussing Varnashram. How the system of Varnashram involves gradual spiritualization of one's material activities. So we discussed the qualities of a Brahmana in the previous class. Let's move forward and discuss the qualities of a Kshatriya. Yeah. So 18.43 śauryaṁ tejo dhṛtir dākṣyaṁ yuddhe cāpy apalāyanam dānam īśvara-bhāvaś kṣatraṁ karma svabhāva-jam. So śauryaṁ tejo dhṛtir dākṣyaṁ. Here we see śauryaṁ. These are the qualities kṣatra karma svabhāva-jam, kṣatraṁ karma. The previous verse was brahma karma, now it is kṣatraṁ karma. Svabhāva-jam, this is born of their nature. So what are these qualities? Let's look at them one by one. Śauryaṁ. Shaurya basically refers to heroism, courageousness, chivalry, where a person is ready to do adventurous things and is ready to take up great risks to do those adventurous things. So kṣatriyas are, as the word kṣatrayate iti kṣatriya indicates, that they are meant to protect others, and for the sake of protecting others they often have to put their lives into risk, and they are ready to do that. In fact, they are happy to do that, because everybody in life needs some source of excitement, some source of stimulation, some source of satisfaction. Now, different people get it through different sort of things. So those who are Brahmanically inclined, those who are intellectuals, they get it by studying new books, understanding new concepts, learning new things in terms of things which give intellectual titillation and stimulation and gratification. Similarly, Kshatriyas, they have the sense of adventure. Another quality will say yuddhe cāpy apalāyanam. We will discuss this. Yuddhe means battle. Cāpy apalāyanam. Apalāyanam means not running away. So different people have their different sources of stimulation, and we need to understand that these stimulations are not necessarily in terms of right or wrong. They can be made right or wrong. We can say that some are material, some are spiritual. Say a devotee, when the devotee is remembering Krishna, gets spiritual stimulation. That is correct. But that doesn't mean that we can suddenly and completely relish only devotional stimulations. So we are at the material level of consciousness. Material level there is goodness, passion, ignorance, and above that there is transcendence. So the soul delights in everlasting and ever new spiritual stimulations with Krishna. So the devotee remembers Krishna, the devotee sees Krishna, the devotee touches Krishna, the devotee serves Krishna in various ways, and all this brings spiritual stimulations that are a source of great satisfaction. In fact, the supreme satisfaction, the greatest satisfaction. But till we come to the spiritual level of consciousness, we all need some kind of stimulation, excitement, satisfaction, and we get it through different things depending on our propensities. So yuddhe, so śauryaṁ. So śaurya is heroism. So by taking out means by fighting against evil, by fighting against those who do misdeeds, and in that way winning, in that way protecting the innocent, protecting those who may be victimized otherwise, people get a sense of satisfaction, and that is the sense of, that's how they get the self-worth and the satisfaction. So that is what is talked about over here. Now this is not necessarily a wrong thing. Now, this is, we may say that sort of stuff which movies are made up of, which in which there is a macho hero who is out to beat the bad guys, and that is attractive to people. So is that necessarily materialistic? Not necessarily. If it is within the precincts of dharma, that means the hero protects people according to the principles of dharma. So then that sort of protection is essential, because this world is a place of danger and is a place where there are evil people who are out to do evil things. So śauryaṁ tejo. Tejo means power. So Kshatriyas, they would have formidable power. We may see bows and arrows, and we may have some small bows and arrows which children use for playing nowadays. However, the bows and arrows that the Kshatriyas would use in their wars, they would be very heavy, very strong, and not very easy to use. Because for the arrow to have sufficient power so that it will go a long distance and actually penetrate the body of the opponent, it requires to be discharged with great force. And to discharge with that much force, the Kshatriya has to have that much power to pull the string, and even the string has to have adequate power, adequate strength, so that when it is pulled back and then released, it will shoot the arrow. So same with the weapons. So nowadays when we use say machine guns or bombs or cannons, or even weapons of mass destruction, the physical strength of the warring factions doesn't play much of a role. Although in face-to-face combat, in hand-to-hand combat or direct combat, it plays a significant role. But the point is, the Kshatriyas have to be strong. So that is the idea of Kshatriyas. Śauryaṁ tejo dhṛtir dākṣyaṁ. Dhṛtir means determination. So actually determination is required for everyone, for all varanas, but especially in this world, to get things done is not easy. Kshatriyas are essentially meant to not just do things but get things done. īśvara-bhāvaś. It is said that Brahmanas deal with ideas, Kshatriyas deal with people, vaiśyas deal with animals, and śūdras deal with things. So dealing with things is śūdras, dealing with animals is vaiśyas, dealing with human people is Kshatriya's role, and dealing with ideas, concepts, principles, that is the realm of the Brahmanas. Of course, this is not a watertight division. Everybody has to deal with everyone else. Even the Kshatriyas deal with ideas, and even the Shudras deal with people. But the point is, primarily we are talking about the focus of the thrust of each person's occupation is different. So for this purpose, to get things done is quite difficult. You have to delegate, manage. So one of the other qualities will be īśvara-bhāvaś. īśvara-bhāvaś. Now normally, so dānam īśvara-bhāvaśca. Now īśvara-bhāvaś may be seen negatively. The idea that I am the īśvara. So we often say that the idea that I am God, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, that is what has got us to the material world, and that's what keeps us in the material world. So that is considered normally to be undesirable trait. And yet Krishna talks it over here in more or less a positive light. He's describing the qualities of each varana, and he's talking about those qualities in a desirable sense, that these are good qualities which people in each varana should cultivate. And therein he is saying that the Kshatriyas should have īśvara-bhāvaś. So what does it mean? Actually in this world, somebody has to take the role of a īśvara. Somebody has to, if things are to be done, there has to be some controller. So if a project involves a team, and the team involves 10 people working, or there may be some bigger projects involve 5,000 people working, so there has to be some controller who will direct and guide and supervise. That is a functional necessity. Every kingdom needs some governing authority. There has to be a king or some other governing authority like that. So somebody has to take up the īśvara-bhāvaś, the role of a controller. So, and that person, if that has the īśvara-bhāvaś, that means here īśvara-bhāvaś just doesn't mean the mentality, it also means the ability. In one sense, īśvara-bhāvaś is there in everyone. Who would not like to have other people who are dancing at one's beck and call and are ready to obey everything that one says? So that is not the essence of īśvara-bhāvaś. īśvara-bhāvaś, as is recommended over here, is that we all understand that ultimately we are under the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Controller, and he is the Parameshvara. But to get his will done in this world, he needs agents. And some of those agents are also Ishvaras. That means whatever is to be done over here, it is done through agents. So, even when Krishna's will is to be done in this world, there have to be competent people who do it. So, that is how Kshatriyas come into the role. So, those people who have the capacity, the ability to manage, delegate, lead, if they become godly, then they will become Ishwaras in the service of the Supreme Ishvara. So it's not wrong to be heroic as long as our heroism is not independent of Krishna's supreme heroism. We see in the Ramayana, Lord Ram is the supreme hero, but Hanuman is also an extraordinary hero. So, in fact, the Sundarkand, which is considered to be among the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful Kand of the Ramayana, it is largely focusing on Hanuman. In fact, Ram's mention is only right side, slightly in the beginning and at the end, but it's entirely about the exploits of Lord Ram, of Hanuman. So, although Lord Ram is not present, still he is present in the Sundarkand. That means he is present in the heart of Hanuman and he is present in the heart of Sita. So, Hanuman is also a hero and he is also a great hero. People talk about being human. Bhaktas talk about not just being human, they were being Hanuman. What does that mean? To develop the Hanuman spirit. That the Hanuman spirit is to love and serve and act wonderfully in the service of the Supreme Lord. Kshatriyas are like that. So śauryaṁ, tejo, dhṛtir, dākṣyaṁ. Dākṣyaṁ means expertise. So expertise in various things. When wars be fought, then how the forces should be arranged, how the military phalanxes should be arranged, what strategy should be used. Okay, I have this many forces, and yet I have to attack an enemy which has more forces, better weapons. Then how do I strategize? So all this is very important to discuss. So dākṣyaṁ, that is expertise. Śauryaṁ, tejo, dhṛtir, dākṣyaṁ. Then yuddhe cāpy apalāyanam. Apalāyanam means never running away. Kshatriyas are said to be so heroic that when they go out to fight in the war, either they go to fight to win or they go to fight to die. And they are confident that if we die in a dharma yuddha, then we will attain heaven. So, yuddhe cāpy apalāyanam. Apalāyanam. One is not afraid to, one doesn't run away from the war. And then, dānam īśvara-bhāvaś. So, dān is an extremely important function of Kshatriyas. Actually, it's an important function of everyone, especially anyone in the household or order. Krishna has talked about this dāna earlier in the 17th chapter when he talked about dāna in the three modes. But along with that, he has talked about in the 16th chapter also when he talks about abhayam sattva samshuddhe, when he describes godly qualities. At that time, he describes dāna as a quality, a godly quality, and that especially pertains to Kshatriyas. So there it pertains to grihasthas. So dānam is the inclination to give charity. So the idea is that the Kshatriya collects taxes and Kshatriya builds the national treasury, and people who are in need, the Kshatriya gives charity to them. Dānam īśvara-bhāvaś, kṣatraṁ karma svabhāva-jam. Kṣatraṁ karma, this is all Kshatriya karma. This is how the Kshatriyas work. So these are the desirable qualities of Kshatriya. And if you look at the life of Kshatriya like Arjuna or Parikshit, or even the way Krishna lived, we see these qualities that Kshatriyas display in their functioning. So now let us look at the qualities of vaiśyas and śūdras also. So kṛṣi-go-rakṣya-vāṇijyaṁ, vaiśya-karma svabhāva-jam, paricaryātmakaṁ karma, śūdrasyāpi svabhāva-jam. So Krishna is describing in two lines, A and B, the qualities of a kshatriya, of a vaishya, and then C and D, he is describing the qualities of a shudra. So kṛṣi-go-rakṣya-vāṇijyaṁ. Kṛṣi is agriculture. Go-rakṣya is cow protection. Vāṇijya is trade or business. These are the activities of a kṣatriya, of a vaiśya. So, essentially, vaiśyas are if we compare remember the comparison, the social body, the śūdras are considered to be the feet, the vaiśyas are considered to be the stomach, the kṣatriyas are considered to be the arms, and the brahmanas are considered to be the head. So in this way, all these are important in terms of how they contribute to society. Every one of them contributes in a different way, and every contribution is significant because every contribution helps a person to move closer to Krishna. Now when a person moves closer to Krishna if that person is of course doing Bhagavad-karma, that means that person is working for the Supreme Lord. We'll see about Bhagavad-karma a little later. But the idea here is that every person, according to one's nature, can contribute to society as well as progress towards transcendence. So there is the Varnashram arranges for material cooperation, and it also facilitates spiritual advancement. So kṛṣi-go-rakṣya-vāṇijyaṁ. Kṛṣi is agriculture, go-rakṣya is cow protection. And some Bhagavatas translate this, some Western scholars, when they translated the Bhagavad Gita, they translated go-rakṣya as cattle rearing. But Prabhupada insisted that we can't translate it as cattle rearing, it is cow protection. Cattle rearing is often used so that it indicates that the cattle are reared so that eventually they will be slaughtered. But that is never done in the Vedic culture. Actually, now from a financial point of view, any investment that doesn't give good returns, that should be abandoned. So for example, if a business person starts a business and then it doesn't give profit, it starts giving losses. So what would the business person do? Just abandon it. And we start another business, just give off that business. So that money-minded mentality is to some extent natural, but it can become undesirable if it dominates a person's consciousness and a person starts thinking of everything in terms of money. So to prevent this domination of the consciousness with money, to prevent a unidimensional viewing of everything in monetary terms, the vaiśyas are ordained to do certain activities even if they don't seem to be financially viable. So a cow, when she is giving milk, is considered to be productive. But when the cow stops giving milk, she may not be financially productive anymore. So at that time, it might be a temptation to slaughter it or to send it to a butcher, to sell it to a butcher to get slaughtered. And that should not be done. The vaiśyas should consider that the cow is like a member of our family. The cow, that's why the word is often used go-mata. The cow is like a mother. And even if the mother becomes old, the mother has given milk. If the mothers breastfeed the children with their own milk, the mothers love the child. So we take care of the elders. Similarly, one should take care of the elderly cows also. Now some skeptics argue that India has so many cows which people try to protect, and then there are so many people who are starving over there. So some skeptics they want India to widely adopt a meat-centered diet and to take a cow flesh. They say that if India doesn't eat the cows, then the cows will eat India. That's how they try to play around with words and provoke people into cow slaughter. And they try to say that, in fact, there is a phrase in English called holy cow. That means if somebody has an irrational affection for something, which something which is considered to be very valuable, so sacred that it just cannot be questioned, then that is called as a holy cow. That's the phrase that is used. So for example, we could say that evolution is the holy cow of materialistic science. That means materialistic scientists, especially atheists, they just consider the evolution is true, come what way. Come what may. They just think that this is what it must be. That holy cow, as I said, it means that whatever happens, they feel that actually this must be correct. However, this is not the notion that in the traditional Vedic culture is there about cows. Cows are considered holy because they are dear to Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Lord. It's not just because of their financial value. If some people are that if you allow milk, buffaloes give more milk than cows. Yes, it may be true, but Krishna is Gopal, he is not Bhaispal. Krishna loves buffaloes also. Krishna loves all living beings. Suhridam sarvabhūtānaṁ. But he is a person, and as a person, he has certain affections. Why does Krishna wear a peacock feather? Why does not some other feather? Why does Krishna play a flute? Why not some other instrument? Krishna is a person. He will do whatever he likes to do. And his choices are sweet. They are supremely independent, and at the same time they are supremely sweet also. So Krishna loves cows, and that's why Vedic culture exalts cows. But even if you look at it from a rational, financial perspective, actually if society is agrarian, is based on is centered on agriculture, then actually speaking, the cow can benefit a lot of people. So cow gives dung and cow urine. So cow urine can be used as a treatment in many medicines, as a medicine in and of itself, and as a medicinal element for many things also. And similarly, the cow dung is a very valuable source of manure. It can be used for fertilization of ground, and more importantly, it can be used as fuel. It's an invaluable source of fuel. In fact, in these days when people are concerned about the environmental costs of fossil fuels, they have oil and petroleum and things like that, which are which are sucked out from the earth. That itself causes a lot of environmental harm, and then when they are transported over millions of miles at times to where they are going to be consumed, that transportation costs so much, and that transportation leads to so much pollution also, and eventually the fuel is used. At that time the fuel also sends out toxic fumes which also cause pollution. So when the environmental cost of fossil fuels is so high, when there is already a widespread network of use of alternative fuels, that means there is use of cow dung as a fuel source, and why should that be disapproved or discouraged? In fact, that is the cow dung fuel is what is mostly used in in rural areas for cooking, and it is extremely valuable and useful. So even if you look at it from the financial perspective, it is not true that Indians need to eat cows to survive. Rather, actually it is because Indians are eating cows, that's why survival is becoming difficult. Why? Because actually if you see, India was prosperous generation after generation after generation for millennia. Now, right from Alexander in the 3rd, 4th century BC, there are so many invaders who have come to India. What was the reason for invaders to come? Invaders don't come to poor areas. Invaders want money, and that's why they attack and try to loot wealthy areas. So where did India get its wealth from? And often when the invaders would come, the cities would be devastated, they would be plundered, and yet within a few years the cities would again, or at the most a few decades, the cities would again become centers of poverty or centers of prosperity. Why? Because the cities were the centers of prosperity, but the cities were not the sources of prosperity. The sources of prosperity were the villages, and that source of prosperity came from the kṛṣi-go-rakṣya-vāṇijyaṁ, from especially cow protection and from agriculture. So India was a prosperous land, and even now it can be prosperous if it has its priorities right. If India has abundant natural resources, it has most parts it has a conducive climate. And now what we're talking about India because why are we talking only about India? The principles of Bhagavad Gita apply all over the world. And not just all over the world, they apply all over the universe. Not just all over the universe, all of existence, which consists of many universes. But we're talking about India because as far as our historical memory goes back, our means human historical memory goes back from the perspective of modern history, then India is the land where Vedic culture has been present for several millennia. So the Vedic culture that was there, and the prosperity was there because of the cooperation between the different Varnas, and Go-rakṣya and kṛṣi. They were the sources of prosperity. So in today's economy, agriculture is largely trivialized and other occupations are glamorized. And actually there's no reason to trivialize agriculture because it is the source of food for everyone. And that's why it's very important that agriculture be given its adequate importance in the socio-economic structures and in the priorities of people. So vaiśyas were respected people. Now if we see the books like Gopal Champu, which describe, Gopal Champu is written by Jiva Goswami, and this describes the life of the Vrajvasis. And of course the Vrindavan is transcendental, but at the same time in books like these we also see glimpses of Vaishya culture. So the Vaishyas were also very God-centered, and they were also having a lot of respect for Brahmanas, but they were also diligent in their duties. Even Krishna would go out to herd the cows. So the idea is that even the Vaishyas take care of playing their part in Brahminical culture. Now, Brahminical culture means not that culture is meant for the Brahmanas or is only participated in by the Brahmanas. No, it is a Brahminical culture. When we use the word, it refers to a culture that is guided by the Brahmanas. So they are not the sole power centers, but they are the sources of moral and spiritual authority, and through them the whole culture, whole society stays on a path of morality and spirituality. So that's Brahminical culture. kṛṣi-go-rakṣya-vāṇijyaṁ. So Vāṇijya also means that one takes a proper profit, but not disproportionate profit where one makes a huge amount of money while other people starve. So kṛṣi-go-rakṣya-vāṇijyaṁ, and then after that, paricaryātmakaṁ viddhi. Paricaryātmakaṁ viddhi means serving others. That is the propensity, that is the role of the śūdras. Now why is it serving others? Because actually a wide gamut of operations or activities and professions, occupations can be included in the Vaishya activities, in the Shudra activities. But their basic role is that they are assisting other Varnas. And even Shudra is not necessarily a value judgment or something undesirable. If certain people have certain propensities, they act according to those propensities. So that is the way society lives and society progresses. So it's not necessarily any way wrong. The idea is, here is not a matter of wrongness or rightness, it's a matter of appropriateness according to individual nature. So now some people also have the idea that actually women don't have an independent varna. Women simply, where do Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, where do women fit in over here? The idea is that women are just having the same varna as their husbands. Now this actually, if you want to think of it from a logical point of view, it doesn't make sense. Because guna karma vibhagashaha, it's not janma karma. So the husband may have one nature, the wife may have another nature. So if they have different natures, then one has to individually see that sometimes the wife may be more Brahminical and the husband may be more of a Vaishya nature. Sometimes it may be opposite also. So the idea here is not to label people as belonging to certain varnas. It is to customize professions according to predilections. Customize professions according to predilections. Predilections means one's own inclinations, one's own tendencies. So, even from the logical point of view, the husband and the wife are two separate souls. They have had their own past different kinds of karma, and they have been born and brought up, and then they are now uniting. So it's not that both will necessarily have the same varna. So in the Vedic culture, it would be best where a person would marry within the same varna, because then the likelihood of having compatibility would be greater. So that is true, but it's not that automatically, it's not that the woman is like an appendage to the man and the woman automatically has the same varna as the man. The woman may have a different varna, but in general, marriages within the same varnas are encouraged so that there is a greater likelihood of compatibility. So now, after discussing about these different varnas, let's go on to the discussion about how all this can be spiritualized. So 18.45.